I went over and talked to Dr. Jerry Makova, who's an associate professor in the School of Business, and she teaches human resources. I sat down with her and started talking about the creative class. She said, oh, yes, yes, and she came up with a lot of comments that she does in her research, which is a similar term. You already heard knowledge class, and she started talking about this, and not only the values, but maybe they're not as productive as we think they are. And so we had a great discussion, and clearly a way to utilize the knowledge of the university and have an engagement with some businesses. So I'm very pleased that Dr. Jerry Makova will come up here and lead our panel discussion. And so with that, let me go ahead and turn it over to you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad to see so many familiar faces and so many HR people. So I feel at home. We will take the discussion down to the nuts and bolts. How do we do it? How companies do it? The creative class is a very catchy name, but in the end of the day, people make one decision at a time and companies make one decision at a time. So every member of the creative class must make that decision to make Wichita home or stay in Wichita, and that's what we are going to talk about. Let me introduce you to my panel, who are going to be talking about these issues in the order of the way they're sitting. Jennifer Rick is the very definition of the creative class. She's an architect. She has worked for 16 years in large companies, and last year she took the leap to create her own company. So she will talk about her experiences as an employee and a member of the creative class. Jeff Wyford is the vice president of GLV. Sorry, I do not like abbreviations. It's a very famous architectural company here in town, and is the one that's drawing the picture for our innovative campus, so close to my heart. He has employed many members of the creative class. He himself is a member of the creative class, and hopefully we will kind of look at the creative class not as that homogeneous lump of people, but all the elements. And in that sense, Jennifer Hughes is going to help us from High Touch to further discuss how the different groups within the creative class work together, and do they have the same needs? Do they make the same decisions? She's an HR manager and has been in Wichita for quite a while, but she moved here from California, so she can probably talk about her own personal decisions. And our final member, Lale Levander, is the newest member in terms of coming to Wichita. She has been here only 6 months, but her enthusiasm about Wichita is contagious. So hopefully some of us who've been here for a while will kind of get more excited about being here and working here and contributing to the community. She works with the Greater Wichita Partnership, and she is eager to tell us more about it. So I'm going to let her talk about what they are doing and why they are created and what they want to accomplish here. Okay, let's get started. I will actually start with our Jeff and Jennifer Hughes. If you can kind of give us a sense of who are your creative class employees, and also what are some of the steps that you are taking in your companies to design in terms of making them attractive for that creative class. Is it different? Is it the same? What are you guys doing?
Is it ladies first?
Ladies
Go right ahead.
Well, I work for High Touch Technologies, and so, we learned a lot about the 3 T's, and one of those T's is technology, and we heard a lot about programmers, and they are part of our creative class, and certainly are part of our creative class within High Touch. But when you think of technology, we have several divisions within High Touch that requires different creative classes. So you think about programming, software developers, those are very creative in nature, but think about once you have a software program, where does it go? It's got to go to the cloud, right? And it's got to be managed, it's got to be faster. So things in technology are always changing. They didn't hire me at High Touch for my technical abilities because I don't have any. But what I can tell you is it's like a fashion trend in terms of technology. It's ever changing. Back in the 90s, we wore Birkenstocks, and guess what we're wearing today? Well, back in the 80s, or when we first started with our cellular phones, how large were those cellular phones, right? Then we wanted them super teeny tiny, and now look at them today. They're growing in size. So everything is changing. So for High Touch, we have a very diverse amount of service offerings that are technology based, and so they require different creative classes. So you've got your engineers, they're designed to make things faster, which then requires security, and our security team is there to protect the data that we're putting in the cloud. Well, just think there's hackers, right? They're in there trying to figure out how to break it, so the security team has to come up with faster, more innovative ways to protect the data that we have out there. Software with our group is probably one of our creative classes. They're supposed to help us, create things that are new. When you go to a restaurant now, you see a kiosk. In that kiosk, you can play games, you can order food, you can then pay your bill and walk out where you don't have to wait for the waitress or the waiter to come. Well, that's going to get boring. So how do our programmers develop new things for that kiosk on the table? And that's kind of what our developers are doing currently right now. So in our creative class, we have engineers, we have developers on the software side, but also on the website side. Just when you get, as a business, your website up and running, technology changes, and guess what? You've got to reinvest and remodernize the current website. So those are the different classes that we have here in High Touch.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here. GLMV is a firm of 100 individuals. Those are professionals, as you can imagine, made up of architects, interior architects, landscape architects, and interior designers. And I was real happy to hear Tim call this class super creative. So I'll take that back to the office and try to boost everybody's emotions up. As Tim also mentioned, it's very a non-routine occupation requiring creative problem solving, and that's what we do. So I was, when we started talking about this panel and the creative class, I'm thinking, well, that's real easy because just about everybody in our office falls in that category. But we are branching out. Our job is to differentiate ourselves from our competition, and in that role, we've added a couple staff titles that you wouldn't necessarily expect to hear from an architecture firm, and one of those being our design technology manager. So when we talk about building information modeling, virtual reality, things like that, we've got an individual now who's looking at that to add to our capabilities. And also we have a job title right now called the Curator of Innovation and Partnerships. And that is a gentleman who is kind of one of our big thinkers in terms of how can we how can we further combine our clients' dreams with the work that we do? How can we better establish, opportunities and create bolder visions? So those last two job titles that I mentioned are not necessarily design professionals. Those are folks that we're looking outside of the design profession to bring in to add to the conversation. And when we work, it's very collaborative. What we like to do is form creative teams, and so those teams would be led by a project manager, is typically an architect, but they would have an interior designer on the team, a landscape architect on the team, our BIM professional, building information modeling, and we locate those folks all together in furniture systems that are very low and allow for conversation, because what we find is just overhearing a conversation of your neighbors is going to add to the cooperation and collaborative nature of our projects.
Very nice. Very interesting idea. So if you guys want to take notes. Jennifer, can you, and then Leah, tell us a little bit about what does it mean to embrace the creative class?
It's very hard in HR.
I think it was Gen 2.
Oh,
That's fine.
Gen
That's
1,
fine.
Gen 2. Let's go for it.
Oh, you can finish. Go ahead.
Do you want to go
Bri-
first?
Yes.
Okay. Well, firstly, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here in Wichita, but here in the room with all of you. As Jerry mentioned, I'm new to Wichita and also new to the Greater Wichita Partnership. And for those of you who don't know who we are, we're an economic development group who works alongside community members in the business world in basically helping fast-track economic growth through workforce development, entrepreneurship, and precisely my job would be working alongside companies to retain and recruit talent, and more specifically, the creative class. So how do we embrace the creative class? That's a question that we've been talking together for the last few days. And well, I can't really speak for my research yet because I'm still halfway through it. Moving here from San Francisco, I've learned so many things about how firms there are trying to attract and retain their programmers, their developers, their engineers, and their artists. And it is really thinking outside the box. How can we foster a sense of creativity and a sense of trust in companies and in the communities for them to be able to create what they need to create, or to find problem solving and offering solutions? Are we creating a sense of trust in communities where we are offering more flexible work hours or more flexible work arrangements for them to be able to work at night or work on the weekend or work from their laptop anywhere in the world? So those are questions that I think companies here and across the country and the world are starting to think about in order to foster that sense of creativity and trust in their companies in order to attract the creative class. Since they're very mobile and a very, not demanding, but they know that they're in high demand and they know that they can find a job in wherever they go, how can we as a community look at what we could offer them in terms for them to be wanting to work here for us and with us?
Jennifer, Rick, can you share
Just
with us?
elaborate.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is the embracing for you?
So the embracing for me would be,
Or when did you feel embraced when you worked for someone else?
yeah, so that would be more of the flexible schedule. I think that, like, I know a lot of millennials are looking for, just being able to have that, I always say the life-work balance, but more I think it's just being able to be feeling like you're super creative when you want to be and not being constrained to certain hours. I think that was a big part of it. And then just being able to be just being able to be to have that trust between your employer and you, and not, and feeling like you're able to, come in when you need to and gone, or, have certain set schedules. But it's a very fine line sometimes to walk. And sometimes that relationship can take years to build for that to happen, but I know these millennials, they want it immediately. So I think it's trying to work with that, trying to get them in the door and then trust and be able to provide things for them that they're looking for.
Very nice. Jennifer, do you want to finish your thought about how it is from HR perspective?
Well, just to kind of give an analogy of what Jennifer was playing on to, it's some generations, newer generations that are coming into the market, they don't want to live off of a 40-hour work week, which is what we've always adapted to, is, our salary is equated to 40 hours per week. They want to be paid as if it's a 40-hour-a-week job, but more paid on their production, right, of the work, their output. And so it's how do you take employers in HR who say, okay, well, full-time is over 20, 30 hours, you get full-time, you get benefits. So in the HR world, it's how do we change everything that, a way of thinking, our way of business, philosophies, and our policies and all of that, to kind of create that culture for the younger generations. But don't forget, we still have baby boomers that they like structure. They like to come in, they like the 8 to 5 or the 7 to 4 or the 9 to 6. They want to come in, they want to get their job done. That's that happy work-life balance. So, and make it fair, right? Because we have to be consistent in our processes as HR or as employers, which is something that that's what we thrive off of as a company. So High Touch has a very diverse group in terms of age. We have our newer generations coming in, and we have our, traditional or older generations that are still there. And how do we make them work well together and play nicely together? And I think we've come a long way in our custom development team. We have a director who is kind of between Gen X and Millennial, so he's bringing a different look and saying, hey, we have a new group of developers who can come in and train on the more hip, cool, modern technology, but yet we need your expertise because you have a knowledge that is so broad in terms of a point of sale system, which is a system that we use to exchange money, which every company needs. So how can we take your experience and train you on this new fancy, modern language and be hip, and then how do you train the younger generation on the knowledge that you have? And there's some real synergy there, and it's working very well with our organization. And playing board games, too.
Oh, interesting. Leah opened the conversation to our next segment about recruitment and retention. Creative class, especially the best of them, know that they're in high demand and employers are going to compete for them. So what do we do, and what companies in Wichita should do to recruit and retain the best talent? Jeff, do you want to take it first?
Absolutely, sure. We want to look at it as a holistic approach when we look to retain and get talent. We want the work to be exciting. We want the work to be innovative, so that and diverse. So in order for us to do that, we have to look at different market sectors. We specialize in 6 different market sectors, a little bit of something for everybody. Some people might be interested in zoo design. Some people might be interested in aviation work. We've got 4 other segments of specialties that we can use to recruit those folks. We want to keep things fresh, we host monthly what we call GLMVU, or GLMV University, events over the lunch hour, where we're taking a different facet of our business and making it multi-generational in terms of the input. We host once a month. We do TED Talks where we take 2 or 3 different topics. Typically it's based on design or presentation skills or the environment or something like that, and then have a conversation after those talks. We allow for remote logins for folks if they need to work from home or while they're traveling. Talking about 8 to 5, last summer we moved to summer hours, so we were able to take a half day off on Fridays, which was pretty on the edge for us. But it was very successful, and I think we will continue that this coming summer.
Very nice. Jennifer?
We talked about 8 to 5 and 9 to 6. We changed our policy to where we allow more flexibility. We're not necessarily counting the time. Our supervisors drive that. We have what we call an all-included PTO bucket, so it's no longer separated by you have 1 week vacation. You accrue PTO, and if you have it, you could take it. We don't need a reason. If it's a lazy day, it's a lazy day, but we want to make sure that we limit the amount of lazy days that you have, of course, and save for those rainy days when you are sick and you really need them. We definitely listen to our employees who say, I don't want to go back for a 4-year degree. I want to change technology. You either in an engineering side or you want to go on the software side. Well, some of our engineers want to go software, but they don't want to go back for a 4-year degree. So when I started with High Touch, we worked together with some of the universities and groups to kind of come around and work with the educational sectors or universities, excuse me, and it said, how can we offer certification classes that really get them exactly what they're looking for, so we could try to change them and transition them into a new career path. And that has been very helpful. Business savviness, some individuals that were coming into the workforce, they were great at doing and passionate about doing what they signed up, but they didn't really know how the business ran, the cost of things. How do we take this and try to keep money towards the bottom line? How do we streamline processes? So we went through financial literacy training, which not only helped them understand how to read an income statement and how to forward forecast, it's helping them personally with their financials. So they're understanding how the business works. Well, now that I know this, how can I help my personal finances work? And that's been good. And having ownership. We're an employee-owned company, so I think that has a lot going for us, but we're all entrepreneurs. How can we grow this? How can we We have an ESOP, which is just like stock options that are given to us. So how do we look, hire millennials, but say this ESOP, you're not going to see the benefits today, but just think in 20 years or 30 years when you're with the company, what you can potentially cash out as a pension, and trying to educate them on that. So those are just a few things. We haven't really embraced the Beer Friday, maybe near beer, I don't know. I have a hard time swallowing those types of things because there's rules for a reason. And so sometimes we forget why we said no drinking on the job, and then when we allow it, then you never know what's going to happen. And then we go, oh yeah, that's why we had no drinking on the job. So, dang HR, but we don't do that. But we do try to encourage fun activities, fun games during the day. We have an OT fun club, where we do different activities, and one is bingo. So we just every once in a while shoot out an email. Here's the widget, is what we call it, and if you have bingo, we give them prizes, and we meet every month for town hall. So we try to have that synergy. We have some groups that play poker during, not gambling real money, but they play poker or board games, or just do things that help them have fun at work, because it's all about enjoying where you go to work. You're away from your family, but you're providing for your family, but how can you make it fun?
I'm going to step in real quick. We are also an ESOP, which I think is pretty interesting in our talking, and they're very similar in terms of the education opportunities that we have to do to educate our employees about the benefits of ESOP. And for millennials, it is tough because it's such a long-range outlook that they have to take. But I think that goes into making sure that we hire the right people. We do support a Beer Friday. We have 2 microbreweries very close to within walking distance of our office. But I
Is
think
this televised?
It will be.
That'll be edited.
Nothing wrong with your.
But I do, and we'll get to it, but I do think that creates a nice creative cluster in the Douglas Design District where we're at right now.
I just really wonder if we have microbrewery on the innovation campus, if faculty will be more productive.
I think
Just
so.
a thought. Leah, do you think that these fun activities on work will increase the retention and recruitment and kind of the overall interest towards companies?
I just want to clarify, as a millennial, that we're really not looking for a free ride or just to play at work, but the idea that we are part of the company culture, the idea that we are, as a person, respected and wanting to be integrated in the community and being engaged in the community is what we're looking for. It could be Beer Friday, or it could be playing board games, or it could be just, monthly outing with the company. It doesn't have to necessarily include alcohol. I think it's just the idea of collaboration and engagement within each other in the company, and just mentorship, and just really feeling part of a community. I think a lot of people who move to cities like Wichita, need probably an extra push to be able to integrate and feel connected to other people. So I really do invite HRs and companies to think about what kind of opportunities do newcomers have in order to not just take the job for a couple of years and already plan what their next move is, but to really see Wichita as their home. And that's also encouraging staff to engage in the community. There are so many opportunities to be part of boards, whether it's creative boards or not, whether it's non-for-profit, or just volunteering in general. We have, Final Fridays, we have so many arts boards, we have Tallgrass Film Festival. There's so many opportunities that millennials want to know about and want to know that they're not going to just come and do their work and just go home. So that's really what I feel people are looking for, a sense of community and a sense of belongingness. And I think it's a community effort, not just for HR to tell them about those opportunities, but for us in general, and hopefully through my job, do that in order to foster a sense of Wichita is home, not just a pit stop.
Jennifer, Rick, do you think that the company or the community or something else will bring that creative class here and retain these same people? Is there some magic bean that you know about?
The magic bean. I would say
Being
for
patented now.
millennials and even, I would say, I don't know what my age group is, a little older than millennial, that it's the opportunity to stand out in a smaller community. Where, like, I think Leah and I were talking, where just we're the big fish in the small pond almost, we can be. So which allowed me to just say, okay, I'm just gonna do this thing and step out on my own, because the community here really embraces that. We have, what does I say? Oh, like we have 1,000,000 Cups, we have E2 Accelerator, we have all of these new kind of entities to kind of push this entrepreneurial spirit. And I think that's might be the magic bean for Wichita, for this being able to financially do it. I mean, I think in San Francisco, New York, Seattle, those might be places where it's just too costly to start something. And here, I think the opportunity is really great.
I would like to know, we talk a lot about bringing in talent, and I think we will be doing that, and we should be doing that, but we also have a lot of talent here. I've had the opportunity to visit schools, high schools and middle schools in Wichita, and we have some amazing STEM and art programs in our schools. And how do we retain those high school students? Because trust me, at the age of 15, if they don't see opportunities or they don't see ways that they're being embraced, they've already decided to leave and go to a bigger city or a city where they can have those diverse experiences, have that opportunity to create those new thinking process where they can actually be creative. You know, we have so many opportunities from, Workforce Alliance has a summer youth program. Are we hiring, potential engineers or potential scientists? I know YPW and WSU have opportunities for young people in high school or at universities to experience the real practical world. So there are so many options out there that we could right now work with retaining our future talent that we could just focus on right now as we're looking at attracting from the outside. But I really do think about how are we utilizing those programs now in Wichita.
Very nice. My panel really wants to talk about the community, but I will take you back in the companies, one decision at a time, and just want to hear a little bit about the successes in terms of recruitment, whether it's local recruitment or national recruitment, because oftentimes with the creative class, we go for national recruitment. It's much easier, and there are fewer boundaries now. So, Jeff, do you have any, what are those things that you've been successful in recruitment? In our conversation, you mentioned that that most of the time when you're successful to bring somebody from outside, there's a Midwest connection. Can you elaborate a little bit?
Sure, be happy to. Last year, we hired 11 new employees in our company, which was represented a substantial growth for us. That was a mix of new hires from colleges in the Midwest. So, as you can imagine, we hit K-State, we hit KU, we hit Iowa State, we go down to Texas. So some of those new hires were from colleges. Others were hires from architectural firms in our area. So we picked up three key employees from another architectural firm this past year, all licensed architects. And then we hired also from the general contracting community, as well as we did 2 new hires using from outside our region, where we used a headhunter to find, and those individuals, we were looking for particular skill sets, a little bit more experience in a market type. I'll tell you that one has worked out and one hasn't, and part of that had to do with the fact that one brought their family with them and the other one did not, and so it makes a difference. As I mentioned to you, our best success is from individuals that have some tie to the Midwest. We do love to hire people locally. Those are, if you're from Wichita, if we can hire you as an intern from one of the colleges, that is our absolutely best retention that we have as far as employees go.
And from an HR perspective, this is also cheaper and easier. So, Jennifer, do you have, in your experience when you're hiring from outside of Wichita, when the retention rate is higher, do you have some success or failure stories you would like to share?
High Touch primarily tries to hire within the community and keep it local. But there are some times where we have to go outside of Wichita. We've mainly, however, because we have 7 locations, we don't do a whole lot of hiring and bringing them in or relocating them. If we do, we're bringing it within the company. So we have 7 locations across the Midwest, so we're trying to transfer somebody from another location in. And so I think that has helped. That's been successful for us. Where we struggle, I think, or where I struggle, or where HR struggles, is the development world. We are now having to go outside of Wichita, and I'm currently recruiting right now, and there's just different language, more modern language that's just not here, or just not enough on-the-job experience with the individuals that we have in our community. So it's trying to work with those individuals local, try to get them the experience they need. There's several different types of groups that have formed to try to grow and be mentored, but it's not a quick fill for us here locally. We're having to outsource and bring them in, or hiring contractors from outside of the Wichita, and then there's the working remote. We have to hire them, but they don't get that on-site, building relationship with the team there through video web conferencing, which is fine, but so that's the areas where we struggle with, is the programming.
Okay, because everybody wants to talk about the community, I'm just going to. So in the rest of the conversation, we will talk about why the creative class wants to function here. Is it beneficial to have a creative class cluster? How employers and the community can benefit from that. So Jennifer, do you want to comment a little bit about how the community can help to create that creative class cluster, and how that might be beneficial for you as a member of the creative class, or as a small company now on your own who may need to hire very soon?
Right?
Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, the work is out there, let me tell you. I have experienced, there were some, I'm ready to hire, so. But it's, I've always been involved in community projects in the city. I've always embraced that as something that, as being part of a community, even as a worker or as an employer or the employee, that community engagement makes you invested in your city, and I think that's where you'll keep your millennials to stay. Because if they invest in the city, then they feel a part of something. I loved volunteering for Tallgrass Film Festival. That was the best thing for any new millennial or any newcomer, like Leah, you'd be interested in this. The people coming into our city kept saying, we've never been to the Midwest. This is exciting. We've never been here. Wow, they were thrilled what Wichita was like. They had no idea. And they were just excited that it was just something they'd never seen before, but they were really excited about how open our community was, how engaging, how nice, how friendly. But so just being involved in events like that, I also was part of a Bike Walk Wichita. We started a Cycling Alliance running group with the city. I know a lot of millennials that like to bike and they want to commute. They want a different way of transportation. They want to see the city as if you're in, a bigger New York or a San Francisco, like to try to bring some of those things to Wichita. And just that community involvement. There's the Art Museum, Douglas Design District. There's so many things that people can get involved in here with the community, but just how that. And then on the flip side, for me, if I have that creative class staying here for all of that, just helps my business, helps me find creatives who can also collaborate on design and be able just to bring a different perspective. Just different ages, they're obviously going to bring something different, especially if they're not from here, to the scene.
So Lale, how do you think we create a cluster, whether they are more singular clusters within a specific industry or just a general cluster of creative class?
I think there are already opportunities for people to come together and collaborate. I mean, I did mention a few boards earlier, but also like there are multiple industry-specific groups that come together and collaborate. There are opportunities to network, around the city. There are coding groups like DevICT that come together and collaborate and work together. So I think in order to create that sense of cluster, people need to find people who are like them, who have similar interests, who have similar wants, and to get together and start creating this kind of environment. And it's already there, but how, one, are we communicating to the rest of the people? So people who are considering moving to Wichita or even considering leaving Wichita, do they know about all these opportunities? are we communicating it to HR and then HR communicating it to their companies, or how are we ensuring that the community knows about all those opportunities? And are we offering a diversity of experience? You know, like we've got the art scene, and we've got, you know, movie theaters, and we've got some roadway shows that come in, but do we have a wide range of activities that people could do in order to find themselves and feel like they could be part of the city?
And just to kind of add, because we talk a little bit about is HR aware, and that's great for bringing folks into our community. But as we talk in terms of retaining, you know, parents, are we educating the parents on the opportunities that their students have to stay? Are we letting them know of, you know, the higher youth program through, you know, the Wichita workforce? Are we talking to teachers and saying, how can we work with the parents of our young adults to help let them know? I'm a prime example. My daughter's 17 and she plays softball, and she's got a scholarship with the university in South Carolina, so she will be leaving in a year. You know, how did I fail her to say this is a great community, great college opportunities here in Wichita? No, Mom, I want to go out. I want to explore. So, you know, I think about when we talk about retaining, it's got to come from our youth, you know, from that level. And are we letting the parents know what we can offer our children here?
Well, the good news is that if she comes back, she will be just so much more enriched with the experiences from out there.
Sure.
So we don't want just people who stay here and just stay here.
Yeah.
We want kind of that movement of ideas and growth. Just a pep talk for her, because
Thank you. Yeah.
She'll come. We'll bring her back.
We'll bring her back.
As Jeremy allowed me to be a little bit messy, I'm going to start asking the tough questions now. Do we present Wichita the right way? Do we give the realistic picture of what Wichita is, what the culture is? And I will share just a couple of my experiences. Before I came here, I did a very extensive research. I tend to do very extensive research when I'm interested in something. And I will be honest, I had no idea how deep and complex the culture here is, how long it took me to actually understand and connect with local people. For the longest time, most of my friends were implants like me. So I think sometimes Wichita is more complex than people see from outside. Even though we're in the prairie, we are not prairie women anymore. So do we present Wichita correctly? Do we sometimes oversell it because we feel like we have to, or do we undersell it? What do you think, Jeff?
We absolutely undersell ourselves, and I think the Chung report would say the same thing, and it has said the same thing. So we absolutely need to sell ourselves in a better way. I think and I'll just dovetail with what Jennifer said. We have to work on parents of our youth to upsell our city. This is a city absolutely that young professionals can thrive in, because I truly believe this is the perfect size city for young professionals to make a noticeable difference, a big impact at an early age, and you know, Leah's a perfect example of that. We need to find our brand, and I think that goes with saying, hey, we're a very cost-effective solution, high-talent, cost-effective solution. And then I'm going to go off on a little tangent. I think high-tech manufacturing is a creative class in this city that we need to acknowledge. The technology that we have and the folks that know the materials is absolutely part of that creative class, and we need to work with them. And that goes along with this clusters of creativity, and your question about, is it singular clusters of different, of same types? No, it's absolutely not. It has to take a mix, and I'm encouraged by you know, the folks that are here today. We've got Sonia Gredman, Don McGinty. We've got, you know, the Reverie in our area. I think that the Douglas Design District is a microcosm of, I think, what we need to do in the rest of the city. Innovation Campus being one of them. The Delano area, Commerce District, Design District, the Douglas Design District are all those that we need to promote, and we need to have parents sell to our youth those areas as far as what we can do to be innovative.
I really want to echo Jeff and Jen. I mean, the parents is really important, but I think the community as a whole, like in my conversation with people, when I first moved here, they said, what have you done wrong in the world to end up in Wichita? You know, you grew up in Abu Dhabi and then lived in Sydney and in San Francisco. Like, what have you done to your husband for him to bring you back to Wichita? And we came back to Wichita because of the ability for people our age and our part of our career to make a difference. When we looked at all the opportunities for people in their 20s and their 30s to sit on boards, make an impact in the community, Wichita was open to that. So that's why we're here. But everybody in the first couple of months I was here was really surprised why we chose to come back after living in like bigger, more vibrant cities. So we're all ambassadors, right, to Wichita. Parents are, HRs are because they're recruiting, but we're all ambassadors. And the way we talk about our city and react to our, what happens in our city is reflected to people who are here visiting or people who are even considering coming into Wichita. And there's a perception task force that is meeting and addressing how we think of Wichita internally and how we could paint a picture of Wichita externally so people can have an image of what Wichita is, like what is our culture. And so there are people coming together working on that. I'm sure they'll have more to share once they're ready to share that, but there are people working hard in creating our perception of Wichita. So I'm excited to see what comes out of that.
I was just going to kind of dovetail on that perception. It's the perception that when you're growing up as a kid here. So I grew up in Wichita and I went away for college and came back and actually quit my job at one point, and I was going to leave and move to Seattle, a bigger city. And I actually ended up staying and just took a different job opportunity because I just always felt that there was something more here that I needed to investigate still. But it's that perception of growing up. You grow up in the suburbs, you grow up outside. I didn't even know what downtown was when I was in high school. I didn't know anything really about the downtown area. So I love bringing my nieces who live out in Andover to downtown. They think it's really cool to walk to go to a restaurant. So just encouraging that perception of the suburbs or just being on the outskirts of the city and not being downtown and kind of pulling that community center back into their kind of even constantly starting it when they're 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, reminding them that there is actually a city, that they're a part of something larger than their school or their smaller community.
This is more of a personal opinion. We talk a little bit about arts being huge, to have, but I really think food. Food.
It was about time.
We are culturally rich here. And we have an office in San Antonio, so we've got the River Walk, and we have a river, a beautiful river, but I just think we're so culturally rich here, and we've come far in the 10 years that I've been here, but I'd like to see that step up even more, make it more encouraging for people to come here and just taste the different taste of the world here in Wichita, right?
Yeah, well, when we are talking oftentimes about the creative class, we assume that every member of the creative class is vegan eating, bike riding, size 2 millennia. Most of the creative class probably will live eventually in the suburbs. And while I love the arts, not big on concerts, but love the arts, most of the time I'm packing school lunches in the evening. So lots of things are happening downtown, but my lifestyle at that point of my life just doesn't allow me to participate. But I would like to have something on Saturday morning or that I can engage the kids because it just life stages. And I would like for us to think about the creative class a little bit broader, multi-generational, because even the millennial will get to our stage.
Oh no.
And will be pushed away from the next generation, by the next generation. So
I'm gonna get that in writing.
with that said, I'm going to break the rules and open to the audience so we can engage a little bit more and not just, and so you can answer questions from the audience. I'll moderate that, right? Okay. So questions. We'll do the same way as Jeremy. Just stand up, ask a question, I'll repeat it, and we'll go from there. If there are no questions, I'm a professor, so I will call on you. Brian, do you have a question? Yes, please. I will repeat the question. Brian Rowson is faculty in the Barton School of Business, and he's asking if any of you is hiring international students.
Yes, High Touch has recently hired in the past few months in development. So it was a great experience, and we absolutely love our new hire.
Do you sponsor them for immigration status?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
That's amazing.
This is wonderful. We want to see more of that, as we saw the research earlier.
We've done the same.
Okay, wonderful. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
This question is more for Leah and for Jennifer. I want to hear more about your thoughts about changing perception. And I think that in both, not only from the outside looking in, but really talking about changing perception from being native Wichitan, growing up here, I'm the same way. I've lived all my life in this community, one state. It always intrigued me that I had peers that just couldn't wait to get out. Couldn't figure out why
What are your thoughts about changing the perspective? And he mentioned that he has peers who couldn't wait to leave Wichita.
I will tell you that those that couldn't wait to get out have all come back. I've had a lot of friends in my class. I went to 2 different grade schools, so I kind of lost track of some of them, but have reconnected as they all came back to either be with parents. It was a family tie, sometimes pulling them back here. But I think they also remembered that Wichita just was a great place to live. But it is, that perception is really hard. I've had to pull, someone told me once, you're like the ambassador of Wichita because you're constantly trying to get people to go do something new. And it is. It's the bigger cities, everything kind of gets dropped in your lap. They tell you, oh, everything, the theater, all the movies, everything to go see. It's all just ready, available for you to just go pick and choose. Wichita, it's kind of a little harder. I wish we could improve upon this a little bit, but it's that you have to actually be proactive and going to see what's out in your community. So I think that's part of the perception change, is that people just don't think there's anything going on. Well, I haven't been downtown in 10 years because there's nothing going on. They just haven't made the action to go actually look for that. I mean, there is something to do 2 or 3 nights a week. I live downtown, and near the Orpheum, so I constantly see tons of traffic, lots of people, always walking around. And I feel like I'm actually living in a real community. So I mean, perception-wise, I think it's pulling those people from the suburbs or even from downtown or from your office even. There's people I worked with that had no idea. What, we have a Tallgrass Film Festival? What's that? So just engaging your coworkers, your employers, friends, and just letting them know about other things that are in the community, I think is one way to help change that perception.
Yeah, echoing what Jennifer said, being aware of what's happening in Wichita, like what are the different experiences that you can have. But for me, I think the way we can address internal perception is starting really young, starting at schools. And I know I brought it up earlier, but how are we showing students, from elementary school that they are part of a community? Are we having school visits for, business leaders, or are we having an internship when they're young? Are they working during the summer? Are they volunteering? Do they feel part of a community? Do they feel like Wichita is a place where they can experiment with their ideas, that they can start their business if they want when they grow up, or they can, experience everything a bigger city has to experience? And I believe we do have opportunities. Maybe more are needed, but it is engaging them from a very young age. And to echo Jennifer, if your child is bored during the summer, or if your child sees that other cities have more to offer, they're going to decide to leave, and they're going to start putting Wichita down. I don't think young kids, really young kids, have something against Wichita. They probably love it because it's home. Right. But it's as they grow older and they start comparing it with other cities that our perception, I believe, goes down. Mm-hmm. And so communication and opportunities for engagement is what I think would be the best way to address it.
Okay. Another question. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Darren Lee. I'm actually an HR student at WSU in the personal social class.
That's very exciting to hear.
There's not enough men in it, so.
That's even more exciting, yes.
Yes, there.
Probably isn't the most eloquent question, but I just recently moved downtown. Actually, I'm moving next week into High Commerce. So, it's a great area. There's lots of things to do. I know that Wichita is becoming more and more exciting, especially to me as I'm
Well, some things, oh, do you
I'll
want to
just
repeat
repeat
it?
the question. Darren, who is an HR student,
go.
I'm ready.
is about to move downtown. He is about to graduate from our HR program, and he's asking what advice you have for him to stay in Wichita rather than move to Dallas.
Well, I think on a personal level, understand where your roots come from, and there are some importance there. But also understand what you get with bigger cities, things that you haven't yet been introduced to. Your rent, for example, will go up significantly. And so a lot of people see dollar signs when they say, oh, I can move to a bigger city and I'm going to make X dollars. I get that all the time when I'm recruiting people. I've gotten it as soon as yesterday, where we have some folks, I don't know what's going on in Missouri, but I ran into 3 yesterday that's saying, oh, I'd love this opportunity, but too bad it's not in Missouri because I'm leaving to go to Missouri in the summer. What does Missouri have that we don't have, right? It's kind of an odd thing. I'm going to research that, but I don't know. But a big city, San Francisco, you could probably, weigh in. You've got traffic, let me tell you. If you've never sat in an hour and a half, traffic, bumper to bumper, you haven't lived. I mean, it's just, that's 3 hours of your day sitting in a car, and you can only hear Adele so many times in that hour and a half when you're trying to get to work. So just think that while the city's bigger, things aren't always greener and bigger on the other end. So understand that quality of life is important. The work-life balance, if you're spending an hour and a half in traffic, that's not really work-life balance. You get home after dark in some, parts of the year. But just understand that, this is a community where you have so many opportunities to get involved. And I'm going to say community, I'm sorry, but that's what our millennials want. You could participate on boards. I have several boards that I participate, and I'd love to hear what your interests are and how I can get you more involved in the community. You can't get that in Los Angeles. I was there, I lived there. I moved to Greenville, South Carolina, and Greenville has come a very long way since I've been there 10 years ago, but they still don't have what we have here in Wichita.
I think community support. In bigger cities, you will have probably more options of restaurants and more options of entertainment, but the community support, like the support that I've seen for entrepreneurs in Wichita, if you go to 1 Million Cups or other events like that, it's probably going to be harder to find in bigger cities. Quality of life, definitely. I was in LA a couple of weeks ago. I spent 4 hours in the car from the airport to my uncle's home, so that wasn't fun. I can't believe people do that on a daily basis. But your thought, there's nothing wrong with your thoughts. I just wanted to clarify that. I've moved 5 times in my 20s. I'm not advocating that everybody should move, but there's nothing wrong with you wanting to compare, and there's nothing wrong with you wanting to try out something new if you want for a little bit. But Wichita, I feel, will offer you that kind of community support, that ability to engage and be on board at a very young age, to have a voice in some of those conversations and those decisions.
And you're in HR, so we want to keep you here.
My only thing is travel. Like living here gives you I think a better opportunity to be able to travel. So I think you can kind of feed that bug that you may have to move and live somewhere else by being able to financially live here well and being able to travel and to visit places more often. I guess that's how I kind of balance out that part of it.
I will give you when I moved here in 2006, after 6-7 months, I started thinking, what on earth did I do? Why? But then I spent 1 week in New York for work, and that was the time when everything turned around for me. I just came back, and I was like, I think I made a good choice. So maybe we should send everyone who has doubts a few days in New York or a few days in Dallas. Dallas traffic is horrendous.
Or Atlanta
and then when
traffic.
you come back, you really appreciate it. So they're good things.
And Wichita Airport is amazing. I know we don't have a lot of direct flights, and that was one of the first things that really ticked me off, having family overseas, having to take 3 flights to get home. It's not amazing. But at least you go through security in 5 minutes. They've got a smile. You don't feel like you're a criminal. So, you know, in other places, like you'll be in security for 2 hours. Yes, they've got direct flights, but then by the time you get on your 24-hour flight, you're grumpy, right? So I feel like we do have the privilege of having a smaller airport, but with friendlier staff and a way easier process to get on board.
And
So.
it only took 10 minutes to get there.
Yes.
To the airport.
Okay, other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Brandy Lillen, I'm with ETE. First of all, I love Wichita, but I've been here a little less than 5 years, and I'm going to say my best descriptor of Wichita is this is a silo city. Like, you don't know what's going on next door, and I've worked really hard to get involved and meet people and become associated, and I love it. But how do we break down those walls? For example, my son's a fencer, and everybody says to me,
Oh.
we have fencing in Wichita.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all those things where you feel like anything you're involved in, you have to be an ambassador for, but why aren't we sharing those things? What is the cultural gap I'm missing here that we're not breaking those walls?
How do we take the silos in Wichita down so the different sub-communities can interact and know about each other?
That's tough.
I think it goes on, but I think it's more of an effective communications. Maybe we need to work on how we communicate. We have several different partnerships that go more regional, right? So not just high touch or you know, not just Wichita, not high touch, excuse me, but how we can connect with them regionally. And I think it's 50-50 though. I think it's not our responsibility to go after them. I think the other communities need to come together in our region and try to grow. If you want something, well, why not go to Wichita and ask for their help or how we can get people more involved?
I agree, because I keep hearing about why don't we have like an app or a website or something with everything's on it, all the events, and it sounds great, but I'm trying to think if other cities I've lived in have that. I don't know if it exists anywhere in the world where you can go in one place and have everything that is happening everywhere in a city listed. I think there is room for us to grow in terms of how we communicate what's happening in Wichita, but I also feel there needs to be a willingness and a desire to want to learn more. To want to be like, let's learn more about my city today. Let's do something different this Saturday. You know, we've done the zoo 15 times. It's an amazing zoo. But what can I do this weekend that is different? So I think there's a two-way, I feel. We need to be a bit more transparent and better at communicating what's available. And I think we've already been doing it, but how can we keep refining it? But we also need to want to know more about something, I feel. I don't know. I'm trying to think of other cities and what they're doing in that regards.
Actually, I have, thank you so much for this question. I have a question for Jeff and probably Jennifer Rick. Do you think that it's not a part of the Wichita culture to brag about ourselves or maybe to even tell others what we do? So maybe if people involved in fencing advertise it and promote it, then everybody will know. But I have learned over time that people don't really talk about themselves in great terms because it's really not a part of the culture. It's not considered so acceptable as it will be maybe in Texas.
I think we're more humble people, maybe.
Humble,
That's
yes,
why.
it is a part of the culture, and it's a beautiful characteristic.
But yeah, that's true. I get told that personally a lot. I don't toot my own horn many times, and now I took on my own company, and people are like, "You did what?" I'm like, I know, and I'm like, I should. But yeah, it's that's a good point. It's trying to promote ourselves and just not. I guess there's probably a good way of doing that, a diplomatic way of bringing up fencing to other people without sounding pompous or this is what I've been doing, just not getting that way.
Well, Brandy, my son plays lacrosse, and it's 2 teams in the city.
Now we know.
I was going to say, I know there's lacrosse here. I had a neighbor who did that.
No, I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No.
We are too humble on a personal level, but what I think we need to do is pump ourselves up on our actions, and I think the new airport is a perfect example of that. It's a world-class airport. I think our zoo is world-class. And I think what's going to happen at the Innovation Campus is world-class. And I do think that as a city, our leaders need to do a little bit more promotion in that area. There's a lot of good opportunities coming up for the city with potentially a new convention center, a new performing arts area, new downtown baseball.
NCAA.
NCAA is a perfect opportunity for us to showcase our actions, and our actions are the city that we live in. So any chance we get, I know it's uncomfortable for people to say, well, I'm super at this, but we can say, take a look at this as what we've accomplished.
Yeah, wonderful idea. John?
Hi, John Kerr, Wichita State University. It seems like there's a lot of competition for the creative class right in the world. If you're really good at it, you can work for 10 years as a programmer or a professor or an engineer. There's a lot of places that want to hire you, but by that point stage of life, maybe you don't want to. High Touch, it sounds like, hires people remotely there and come to Wichita. There seems to be an assumption that, well, there's earlier questions mentioned, do you create the firms and then employees come, or do you get people and then firms will follow them? Most all of us work and live within a couple miles, but not all of us. Is there, within Wichita, would it be okay if we had more firms with companies, with employees who work remotely? What has been happening? Or do we want more employees or freelancers who actually wind up flying out of our wonderful airport and going further locations? What would you
Do you want to repeat it or just answer?
It was a long question.
It's a lot.
Well,
Put you on the spot.
what is better for us, to have people who work remotely and contribute to our companies, or do we want more freelancers who work for companies outside of Wichita?
So for High Touch, I think we like more community individuals within the community. Where we go remote are more of contract work, so they're not really long-term, although we do have remote employees that have been with the company 10 years that work from their home. But sometimes we're forced to go out and work remote because we have such a small, tight time frame in terms of our recruiting time to get somebody on board, because we have to get projects going and moving. So sometimes it's not necessarily the easy button, but it's a more quick, fast way so that we can get the right talent in and start working on those projects that are due within a 6-month period. So, so I think for us, we want to hire people within, or we want to relocate people here to enrich our community, but we want to make sure when we relocate them here, we want them to stay here. And so that's a very unique recruiting process to make sure that you're hiring a person who walks and talks and says, oh, I'll be there forever, but when they show up, sometimes it's not the case.
At the Greater Wichita Partnership, when we have companies that are considering opening a branch here or relocating here, their first question is talent. They're no longer looking at real estate or tax incentive, that those will help, but the first question is, if we relocate here, are we going to find the talent? You know, they see that we have pretty low unemployment, and most people who they're looking for already have a job. Are we going to be able, as a community, but also as an organization, to help them fill in their positions? So I don't know what comes first. I don't know if I have an answer to that, but I know that, you know, until we can prove to the companies that people will want to move here, that will help them find the right talent for their position, it's going to be really hard for companies to want to relocate or expand in Wichita. And so that's something to consider. They want people, again, community, sense of community. They want people here on the ground working and contributing to the city as well. So.
And on an individual level, I'd say, yes, we'd like to have people work remotely and then come check us out, you know, come to the home office and get a feeling of what it is to be here. And I think they'll want to stay.
Very nice.
Yeah, I'd agree.
State that really just years of recruiting to Wichita, we can recruit talent to Wichita. And I think you guys have hit on a lot of the elements where we are a little bit siloed. And I think a lot of us have been here for a lot of years, and we've never lived somewhere else. And we're very comfortable with that, and we're very comfortable with not knowing everything that's going on in the city. And then you don't want to be involved in everything that's going on in the city. So we don't
Thank you.
I just want to comment to something you were talking, or that you just mentioned. I recently had a friend of mine's, her siblings moved back, or they moved to Wichita they've been living in Austin for about 8 years. They'd lived in New York before. They're not from Wichita, not from Kansas at all. They're from Oklahoma, so they do kind of know a little bit of the Midwest. But it was really interesting getting to know them this last year, seeing their perspective of Wichita through their eyes. They really enjoy this city. They were so over Austin. They've been there since '08. They're just done with it. We're tired of it, the community, the driving, the whole culture of it down there. And they really have embraced Wichita. They're just looking for jobs now, which is really hard in their industry. But it's that perception it's been nice to see on the other side that there is a great perception of people coming to our city and seeing what we have. So then it made me think, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot, Pizza Hut. So you take them to the Pizza Hut on Wichita State's campus. Oh, there's Coke Industries here. Oh, this is Cessna. Oh, this is where Freddie. I mean, we have so many great companies and great businesses here. I think people forget that. It's like I've always wanted a little like Wichita's cool website or something for people when they come to Wichita, and that lists everything that we have going on here. There's so many great things to our city that I think we forget sometimes to embrace. Right. Exactly. Mm-hmm. Right.
And really get to talk with them and learn more about how they got to be where they are. You get to do that every day in Wichita.
Right.
Good point.
Exactly.
One.
Very good point.
Okay, Joy.
Hi, Joy Akins with Person and Brand Development. I'm pleasantly surprised to find out I'm going to be free to class today. Medical Office of Programmers. So I have a question, maybe aimed a little bit at Jennifer, maybe aimed to Dr. McKenna. So I heard you mention that you are struggling with finding some of the kinds of programmers you need. I've heard other developers in town, programmers like Chris Callan with Grit, we're all talking about the same set of programmers that we're all fighting over right now.
Mhm.
I don't want to get too close because you might coach mine. Right?
Right.
So once we recognize that and we see that maybe our universities aren't turning those skills out, how do you create partnerships? How do we work together as businesses to do that and change that so maybe we have a plethora of people to choose from because all of us are always short?
I can repeat this question. How do you create partnerships to assure the talent is here and that you can grow that talent?
Well, I think, Joy, you'll agree, we've come a long ways in 5 years with universities and training. I think it's a matter of the business need that sends us on that path of recruiting the right talent. It is not that we don't have developers or programmers here. We have developers and programmers. But when you think of the software, and again, I'm not a technical person, in the software world, there are lots of different types of languages that are out there. And when you try to work with a client that has this software and it's, coded in this language, well, it may not be a modern language, right? So how do we find somebody with that experience, but how do we also find an individual that can make that system using that old language and modernize it to give what the client really wants? So it's not that we don't have developers, and we do tend to, I guess not fight, but headhunt each other. I don't know the answer. I know we've come far. I don't know if anybody really knows the answer of how we grow that or how we find. It's just a needs basis, and sometimes those needs are just different, and unique.
I know there are opportunities for businesses to come together and meet with the education world to discuss it. I mean, I know that there's the Business Education Alliance where the business world can meet with the universities and the school system and be like, we need that language or we need that kind of skills, and find ways to, some will be maybe long-term solutions. It may take a couple of years, but some can just be, putting in place certificates at universities where you could actually get it done in a few months. So there are opportunities for companies and the education world to come together and talk about the needs that they,
And Joy, about DevICT, and there are some more technical-based groups that have formed in the last few years, and as recruiter, we want to get involved in them, speak to, the group members and let them know the opportunities that exist here in Wichita, or what we're looking for, because the great thing about technology is you don't have to go to school for a 4-year degree. It's a plus, and you should, but there are different things that can be taught in a 6-week program or a boot camp that is just as beneficial to the employer as a four-year degree. Four-year degree to me is important. It teaches them business savviness. So again, we want four-year degree, but we need somebody who's going to have their four-year degree, but constantly be going and getting new certifications and growing their skill set. Because again, it's like Birkenstocks, right? We liked Birkenstocks in the 90s and we like them today, and it just, technology changes, it's by trend. And so we need people to want to start changing and it's just ever evolving.
I understand the fear of somebody taking your talent away, but I think recruiting in coalitions, because if you think of people relocating here, if they know there are more than one company that is a potential employer, they might be more willing. Because it may not work for them in your culture, but may work if there are 5 other companies. So maybe you can, recruiting in coalitions, I've seen that done in other industries, and I think it may work well. I can take only a final question. Oh my, okay. Yes, sir.
My name is Don McGinn, having to get the chief deputy. So aviation is a cluster here in Wichita campus, and it generates a lot of employment, not only in the spirit, but all the way through the city. What other clusters do you think Wichita, the city, should bring to Wichita? Because really, we've got to concentrate on creating that cluster for that demand for everything, for that to grow. Instead of having just aviation, have a multiple group of clusters in the city, and ITES or architect could be one of them. I don't know.
What clusters do you think we should focus on creating in Wichita?
I'll take it real quick.
Yeah.
And it's related to the aviation industry, but I think composites is where we need to be focusing on right now. I think we need to go big time on that. We've got the opportunities, we've got the talent here. We need to double down on that. With National Institute of Aviation Research, we need to parlay that. We need to really put the pressure on growing that industry.
I mean, I think there's a growing data and IT. It's not as obvious right now, but I think there are more, like with high touch and more companies that are, starting to attract, more data and IT sector. I know we have a pretty good healthcare cluster. I mean, I should actually know them all by heart. I'm sorry, Craig. I should know all of our clusters by now. But we do identify with 8 clusters in the region, and obviously aviation is the biggest one, but there's oil and gas and, lots of other ones.
Agriculture.
Agriculture, yeah.
Okay, I will let Jeremy wrap it up for us.
Well, I want to thank everyone and the panel members and the speakers for a good job for having a discussion. So I didn't script this. So the conversation kind of led down to art and community and culture. Even though we talked about business, it kept going back that way. Just as standing from the balcony, looking down, here's some stuff that we really didn't cover. I mean, we really didn't cover, when you're talking about the creative class and tolerance, some of the extremes that some communities have gone to for embracing, or even companies have gone to for embracing the labor force. Everything that we kept hearing kept coming back to more to our Midwest traditional values. But in that discussion, as I noticed, we said that there are social infrastructures that we have in place here that are of value, we're just not completely capitalizing or telling about it. So I want to bring that up. I'm not sure if we have really an answer to it, but we didn't exactly say, hey, we're going to go completely different as a community. I didn't hear any suggestions from the audience either saying, hey, we should go a completely different direction. But how can we bring the creative class and embrace what we are? And I think that's actually somewhat useful, saying, hey, we know what our resources and our culture are here. How do we just communicate those as being a unique environment for attracting the creative class? So I think that's somewhat down the right direction. I just don't know if we completely understand that from a business perspective of what the creative class is really demanding, of the real cultural change that they need or we're asking for at the national level, and what we're providing. And I'm not sure we're really understanding it as a community either from this discussion. So I don't think we really dug completely deep into all those things, and that's okay. But I think it was just looking from the balcony, hearing what we had to talk about today. It gets us down that track. So a couple things. Go ahead and take your name tag off. You can put it on the table, and we can recycle that. I'll stay around and chat with anyone who wants to chat, but maybe the panel members can stay around for just a few minutes as well. Thank you very much for coming. I will just make an announcement. We will be having our Economic Outlook Conference on October 5th. So it's coming up not too far in the distance, and we have big changes coming for this. It's became a pretty big event, about 800 some people. So make sure you can start registering now for that. So thank you very much. Have a good day.